Okay, in this lecture, I'm going to refute Yasir Qadhi when he made the claim to say that there are problematic texts and there are teachings that are bizarre. Now, Yasir Qadhi tried to put a spin on this to say that he wasn't talking about the Quran having bizarre, or the Quran has problems, or the Hadith has problems when it teaches hudud such as stoning and slavery, killing apostates through stoning and apostasy, and all that sort of stuff. Now, Yasir Qadhi is saying that he didn't mean that the Quran has got problems. He didn't mean that the Hadith have got problems. He was apparently trying to say that we have got problems because we can't understand some of the texts that may be problematic for us. And he tries to say that he was trying to blame us not understanding it being a problem and not the text itself being problematic. Okay, so Yasir Qadhi tries to explain this, but I'm going to show you a detailed view that this isn't true. And even if he wants to suggest that, there are other questions he needs to explain, because he spoke about reforming the interpretation of the Quran, which he did not talk about in this discussion. So let's listen to what he says, trying to answer this misconception.
Criticism number 8, which is so dangerous also, that you described some from the Quran and the Sunnah text as a problematic text, and you literally said bizarre.
Again, this is something that we need to be, again, multiple angles to look at. First and foremost, if, and this is, I'm teaching this as a simple principle, if there is a preacher, a teacher, a person who has many, many lectures, if you find a clip that seems to go against everything he's preaching, you should have some husn al-dhan. What is going on? What did he mean? Okay? Unfortunately, what we find is that sometimes some of our brethren, may Allah guide them and forgive them, they take an ambiguous clip, such as this one, and they use it to negate hundreds and thousands of other clips and explicit statements. And this is, wallahi, it's as if Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying that يَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْ ابْتِغَاءِ الْفِتْنَةِ وَابْتِغَاءِ تَأْوِيلِهِ. Allah says of the Quran, forget Yasir Qadhi's speech, of the Quran, Allah says, there are people that will find ambiguous ayats and they're going to read in to cause fitna, ignoring the clear ayat. So they're always...
Let me tell you this. Yasir Qadhi produced a video talking about the text of the Quran. He said that the standard narrative has got holes in it. And Yasir Qadhi removed the video, and he said that he made poor choices of words. So is it people looking too far into it and trying to cause fitna, or are you causing fitna for yourself by not having the aql and the wisdom by using the correct words?
There may be people that do this. I seek Allah's refuge. I speak to these critics. I say, Ya Shaykh, Ya Akhi, please listen.
Ya Akhi, we seek refuge from you from using poor choices of words, not thinking about what you say. And then you create this sort of fitna amongst the Muslims. So may Allah protect us from your own fitna.
Into hundreds of khutab and durus and lectures. Inshallah, you will find some love of the Quran and Sunnah.
What did you mean about this?
So first thing I want to begin with this is that when you find something like this, understand first. Secondly, the story of this, Ya Shaykh, is also, again, I seek Allah's refuge if I made a mistake. Let me explain what is intended and what is going on. So, during the crisis of ISIS, the fitna that's going on, and America was on high alert. And there was legislation in 22 states attempting to ban the Sharia. I don't know if you know this, is before you came to America.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, 22 states attempted to ban the Sharia. Islamophobia was all-time high during this time frame. And one city, I forgot where in Pennsylvania, I forgot where. No. So one city, for the first time, got the city council to come to its iftar, to its annual event, and the mayor to come. And they invited me to be the keynote speaker. So the first time the non-Muslim delegates are coming, and the mayor has come, and they said we have never managed to get them now, and there's some talk of some issues against the Muslim community. We're asking you to come and clarify what is going on. So the bulk of my audience were non-Muslim. You have to understand this point. Now, sometimes when you're in front of a live audience, again, you have to think of words, and sometimes not the best words come out. So again, I seek Allah's refuge if the phrasing was wrong. But what was the intent?
So notice, folks, he says that people go and, take a misquote video, a little clip from here, and he himself admits that he doesn't pick the right choices of words. And then he actually blames us for causing fitna, taking a particular video or a short clip and causing fitna, where he himself admits he contributes to the fitna by not being wise enough to pick the right words. So it's like he blames us for his own blunder.
The intent is not problematic at all. Maybe the phrasing could be better, no doubt. But again, when you're put on the spot, sometimes you say things that you wish you could prepare the speech. You're not. So somebody asked me about ISIS taking slaves. Something like this, And doesn't the Quran allow slaves and slavery? Okay. What I wanted to say, and maybe the wording wasn't best, but the concept is 100% clear, and I'm going to explain it, and I've explained it in the past. Actually, I explained this multiple times, is the following.
Sure.
That every faith community has issues that it has to struggle with. Actually, Allah says in the Quran, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْجِهَادُ وَهُوَ كَقِتَالُ وَهُوَ كُرْهٌ لَكُمْ. Allah says in the Quran, some things you find difficult. Okay? This is factually correct, that there are issues that you find problematic. In fact, our ulama wrote books about the problematic issues of the Quran and Sunnah.
Like who?
Ibn Fawrak.
Notice how he says there are things in the Quran you find problematic. But when I'm going to play you a clip, he never says you find problematic. He says there are things in there problematic. You see, there's a difference, and this is the poor choice of words he makes. It's like he tries to cover his own mistakes. He gets exposed, and then he tries to cover it. So he said, you'll find in every text there are things problematic. But then he tries to change it by saying, you find it problematic, right? So this is the problem I have with these scholars, right? They will say one thing, and when they get caught, they'll put a quick spin on it and say, no, I wasn't saying that the text was problematic. I was saying that you not understanding it was problematic. Keep that in the back of your mind.
Right? مشكل الحديث. الطحاوي شرح مشكل الآثار. Right? Explaining the problematic ahadith.
This is
He has 11 volumes, ya Sheikh.
Oh, mashallah.
11 volumes. 11 volumes. Explaining problematic ahadith. Is Imam al-Tahawi saying, A'udhu billah, the Quran is problematic, the process? He is saying, we have...
And here is the thing, folks. If his audience are just random people like, I'm not a scholar. If we're just random his audience is westernized Muslims, right? And this is what I have a problem with. If he's just talking to Joe Blow and his videos are being watched by average Muslims, why is he using words that we cannot understand? Right? A lot of these Western Muslims say, oh, Yasir Qadhi is excellent. He's a very good preacher. He's what we need in the modern world. He preaches directly to us. It's so we can understand. Why doesn't he then speak to us in terms that we can understand? Why does he speak to us in terms that have got ambiguity? Right? Why doesn't he learn from his mistakes and say, look, I'm speaking to an audience that hasn't got much knowledge, right? Or can't really understand things deeply. So in order for me not to cause fitna for him, let me talk to him in more precise terms, such as the text of the Quran is not problematic. You are problematic in understanding. Why doesn't he come out at the very beginning and say that instead of making now videos trying to clear up all these misconceptions? So it goes to show, folks, you can be a scholar, but it doesn't mean you're good at dawah. It doesn't mean you're good at, and I don't care how many biographies he's made about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It means you're not really good at doing dawah to non-Muslim audience, to Muslim audience, to a younger audience, people who vaguely know about Islam or Muslims who just vaguely know about their religion. You should then stay away from the dawah scene. You should completely stay away, because if you can't make things precise and you speak in ambiguity terms, then you should stay away, because you're causing more damage than good.
Problems understanding. It is problematic for us to deal with this. We don't have a solution. We're struggling to get to the solution, right? So this was my point in trying to explain that, look, we all have issues that we find difficult to explain. They are problematic for us. This is something, yeah, متشابه. So Ibn Hajar, every alim, يعني Ibn Hajar, I remember reading a commentary recently, he goes, وَهَذَا الْحَدِيثُ مُشْكِلٌ. He says this hadith is problematic, and I don't know how to resolve it. Actually, about the height of Adam, right? Okay. He goes, this hadith is problematic, and I don't know how to reconcile between archaeology. So what he says.
By the way, Ibn Hajar, one from the best ulama who explained the hadith. By the way, but for those who don't know Ibn Hajar.
So what I'm trying to say is that the phrasing was, again, maybe not the best, but the concept is
not the best. It was wrong. Don't say it's a. So he's trying to say, oh, it was medium. It was okay. It wasn't the best. He's still trying to give himself credit after causing the fitna. He's still trying to give himself credit.
Faith community, right? There are ahkam that they have to struggle with, and we have to understand how. So it's in our understanding. Yes. So what do we do with the issues of slavery? Wallahi, every one of us, when we go through a phase, no, the Quran doesn't actually allow milk yamin. We have to go, then we say, oh, it does actually. Now, what do we do with that? It's something we have to go through and you have to understand. I invited Dr. Jonathan Brown, Slavery in Islam, is a whole lecture. Listen to that, right? And even he has a good book on this as well, that he as a Muslim had to undergo how do we understand these verses? It was problematic for him as a Muslim. It was problematic for me as a teenager when I first came across the verses, right? So the problem, a'udhu billah, is not in the Quran and Sunnah. The problem is in our hikmah and lack of hikmah, our struggling with it. And the context clearly shows us. In any case, I seek Allah's refuge if the wording wasn't the best, but I also gently say to my critics that, Ya akhi, please listen to my hundreds and thousands of lectures about the Quran, about the Sunnah, about the Seerah, about how I'm defending the Sharia. Then you come across 10 seconds, right, at a time and a place and a location that you don't know. Please have some husn al-dhan. I have defended the Sharia and the Quran and the Sunnah and the Seerah for my entire life. Now you come across something vague. May Allah forgive me. Maybe it wasn't the best wording, but the concept was, I'm trying to explain, because the question was, doesn't the Quran allow slavery? Ya Sheikh, a non-Muslim in 2 minutes, how do you give da'wah to them when he asks you about slavery? I had a hikmah, I had a methodology, and I don't see a problem with that. We say, look, this is an issue. Yes, we as Muslims, we have to understand. Maybe we're going to have some issues with it. Then I'll move on to tawheed, to something else. So how do you explain to a non-Muslim audience immediately? He is asking milk yamin. Does your Quran allow milk yamin? Right? How are you going to explain to a non-Muslim this regard? And in a way that you move on to something more important. I employed a tactic. With utmost respect to those that are finding this problematic themselves, go and give da'wah and find me a better way and I'll follow it. But I employ the tactics that even you as Christians, you have things in your book that you don't know what to do with. Even you as Jews, you have things in your book, you believe in it, but it's problematic for you. This is the point. We as well as Muslims, right? We have ahkam. Allah says in the Quran, you're going to find this difficult, but you must do it. Okay, we are doing the same thing. So the problem is in our own trying to understand the hikmah.
So clear now, Sheikh.
Okay, notice how he said you're going to find, and this is where I'm going to prove to you how deceitful this scholar is. He says when we hear, he says he defends the Sharia, he believes in the Sharia, meaning he believes in slavery, meaning he believes in the hudud, he believes in the stoning, he believes in killing the adulteresses, right? He believes in the slavery. And what else did he say?
But I also gently say to my critics that, Ya akhi, please listen to my hundreds and thousands of lectures about the Quran, about the Sunnah, about the Seerah, about how I'm defending the Sharia. Then you come across 10 seconds, right?
See how he says he defends the Sharia. So he believes in slavery, he believes in killing apostates, he believes in stoning adulteresses. Okay, so listen what he says here. If he's accepting this, we'll see. Why does he do this? Let's have a listen. Alright, listen how he actually says you'll find things in the Quran where Allah says you'll find difficult, but you must do it. Meaning he agrees to these. Listen.
But it's problematic for you. This is the point. We as well as Muslims, right? We have ahkam. Allah says in the Quran, you're going to find this difficult, but you must do it.
Okay, so does Yasir Qadhi follow the Sharia? Does he, when Allah says, when you find something difficult in the Quran and Allah says this is it, you must do it? Yeah, and does Yasir Qadhi say, yes, I will accept it, I will do it? Or does he say, no, we need to reinterpret it? Does he say we need to reform it? Let's have a listen. Let's listen now.
Does medieval Islamic law prescribe the death penalty for extramarital sex? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It does prescribe the death penalty for extramarital, not premarital. Adultery, basically. Yes, it does. But once again, how often was this law actually applied even in medieval times? Was this the norm, or was this a type of scare tactic so that people don't actually commit adultery? Even according to our own medieval scholars, this law is actually meant more as something in the books to terrify you, rather than to actually implement. And it is very rare, even in medieval Islam, to come across these occurrences. Should they be updated and modernized? Again, that's an ongoing discussion. And that's one of the main sources of intra-Muslim dialogue. We are debating amongst ourselves. I'm sure many Jews and many Christians understand this. The texts say things that are somewhat problematic at times. All religious people know what I'm talking about here, right? The text has some laws that are somewhat bizarre. And this is all texts. Need I quote you Leviticus and Deuteronomy and whatnot? I mean, you understand my point here. So Muslims do need to have that dialogue, and they are having it. But the claim that somehow this is representative of mainstream, or even worse, that this is somehow relevant to us American Muslims, I mean, that's simply preposterous. What has this act got to do with us here? I understand that at a theoretical level, it's nice to discuss, let academics come, let clerics come, let's discuss this out. But I, as a national American cleric, when I go to sleep at night, it's not my primary concern. What do I do with the text about
Okay, so did you notice that he literally was indicating reformation? He was basically saying that the scholars need to come together, reinterpret the text, and come up with another interpretation, right? So what happened to his earlier statement saying, it's the Sharia, if Allah commands something that we find bizarre, yep, we do it, we accept it. He supports the Sharia. And why is he now talking about reinterpreting the Sharia and reforming it? Why is he speaking in those terms? Which is fueling the idea that we can reinterpret and change the text.
Across these occurrences, should they be updated and modernized? Again, that's an ongoing discussion. And that's one of the main sources of intra-Muslim dialogue. We are debating amongst ourselves. I'm sure many Jews and many Christians understand this.
Yasir Qadhi, why are you debating amongst yourselves? Why are you talking about modernizing it? Why are you talking about reinterpreting it and changing it? Why are you talking about these terms if you apparently believe in the Sharia? If you apparently believe in the stoning of adulteresses, killing the homosexuals, if you believe in, killing adulteresses, if you believe in slavery, why are you now then preaching that scholars are coming together, we're having interfaith dialogue, and we're trying to come up with reinterpretations? And notice what he said. He said that it's more of a scare tactic than an application.
And he's using that to try and change the Sharia, right? To say, look, this wasn't really implemented. So it was more of a scare tactic. Really? Yani, if it was a scare tactic, suppose we believed in his theory, yeah, that chopping off the man's hand is only a scare tactic. If you steal something, it's not really about implementing. It's only really meant to be a scare tactic. Okay, suppose we run with this interpretation, we get rid of the punishment. Well, apparently, according to Yasir Qadhi, this is good. This is open dialogue. We can start interpreting it. We can start talking like this, right? Because he said that we can modernize the text now, right? So notice how he claims he believes in the Sharia. He believes in the conservative belief, but he also introduces the idea to modernize the text. And that's what the Christians did. The Christians modernized their text. Now they don't have Christian Sharia anymore, right? So again, see the difficulty he causes for himself. He claims one thing and then he tries to introduce reformation into the text. And we know, for example, that he does believe that it is bizarre and fanatical if you try and apply the Sharia. We know that the Taliban apply the Sharia. They might stone adulteresses, they might kill homosexuals, they might have slaves, concubines, and they might do these things. And Yasir Qadhi spoke about this, and he wrote here on the 12th of August. He writes here. He says, the Taliban and their bizarre and fanatical interpretations. He's talking about applying the Sharia. So I can guarantee you right now that if the Taliban were seen stoning the adulteresses, Yasir Qadhi will actually go out on social media and say this is a fanatical interpretation. I mean, if he doesn't believe that, then why does he bring in the idea that the texts scholars are coming together, having discussions, trying to reinterpret the text, trying to reinterpret the Sharia law, trying to modernize it?